Hey guys, what's up? I'm CJ and welcome back to my galaxy. Today, this is my immediate reaction to Deadpool and Wolverine. I haven't watched it yet. I'm about to go to the cinemas and watch it. My camera's shaking a little bit because I'm holding it with one shaky hand. So, I am very excited for this. I'm not like a massive fan of the MCU, but I'm also a massive fan of the MCU, you know? The movies aren't great, but when they are good, they're amazing, you know, and I feel like Deadpool and Wolverine is supposed to be one of those movies. And I actually quite like the first two movies. And here's my problem, right? I'm not into the X-Men. My sister is. I'm into the MCU. And so I'm not gonna get all the references. When I watched Deadpool and the first two movies, I didn't understand all the references. I had to look up what was going on, which is not great, you know. But, you know, we got there in the end. I will have a delayed reaction to what's going on, but I understand the TVA, which is what it seems like is in the trailer. So I'm hoping Loki and Mobius are also in it more than just like a post-credit scene. They were in the cast list, so surely there's going to be at least like a 30-second clip of them somewhere. At least I'm hoping so. My sister and I last night were watching the two trailers that they released, and we were trying to figure out what sort of cameos there's going to be, and it looks like there's going to be a lot of Disney references. And surely, I think, she disagrees with me, I think that surely not everyone's going to get every single reference in this movie, because I think that, yeah, Disney's going to be all over this movie. And it's gonna be and Deadpool's gonna be making fun of them. The only thing I don't understand are the like Mad Max references. I'm leaning towards it's because it's an Australian movie and Hugh Jackman, and that's it, because it's not a Disney film. I don't think they're owned by Disney. So I don't know what it would be about. Alright, let's go and watch the movie. So obviously the casting list lied to me. However, the woman that I do not remember the name of, but works for the TVA and was in the Loki series, was in this movie, so I was pretty happy with that. They also mentioned in the movie the superiors, their bosses or whatever the hell they said, that was Loki. That's definitely Loki, and I'm wondering what the hell Loki's up to right now, trying to hold on to the timelines. Hopefully he's not crying and sad. Like at the end of Loki, I need to have Loki back. Please make him happy. Also, I put on this necklace just as I was leaving. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it is yellow. For Wolverine. You know, I think you guys can see that. So I had a little bit of red for Marvel and Deadpool, and then a little bit of yellow for Wolverine. Yay! Because obviously we need to acknowledge the Australian in the film. So, Deadpool and Wolverine, was it a good movie? Yeah, I would say so. It was I actually really like Deadpool movies just because they're funny, you know. It's this kind of film that is violent, but not violent to the point that you want to throw up. You know, there's not really censorship, but it's not quite at the level of Cocaine Bear. If you've watched Cocaine Bear, that was an insane movie, and I'm never watching that movie again. I was traumatized by that. I would rate it maybe a solid 9 out of 10, just because the sheer amount of cameos in this, and I know I explained at the beginning of this video that I'm not super into X-Men, but I did study up a little bit. Since my sister's into X-Men, I didn't watch anything. She looked up a bunch of stuff was like, these are the people, these are a bunch of X-Men, and these are the movies, and this is what you have to know. And it wasn't about the fact that I didn't quite understand all the cameos. I wasn't expecting that I'm not going to understand them, but I think a lot of people will. But the cameos were there was so many. And I feel like they definitely blew their budget on just the cameos. And I had no idea. Going into this movie, I did know this. But I had no idea before this movie was announced to come out that Chris Evans was originally in the Fantastic Four. Found that quite interesting, that he would be Captain America later on. Not really sure why they cast him like that, but okay. And I feel like Ryan Reynolds was also in an X-Men movie. I feel like I was told that. and then he became Deadpool. So I'm not really sure what the Marvel Studios is doing with that, or what they did do that with that before they created the MCU. Chris Evans was a good cameo, but they could have like maybe halved it with the amount of cameos. There were a lot of powers going on. I'm not a fan of ensemble casts, so this is more of a personal preference. I'm sure a lot of people really enjoyed the cameos, even though there were a lot of them. There was just ensemble casts, and this isn't like a massive, I wouldn't consider it an ensemble cast, but it gives off the same vibes. If you catch my drift, that it gives when ensemble casts are in movies, because there are so many people you have to keep track of and understand what their story is and what their part in the movie is, and how they're motivating the plot in this way, and how they're blocking the character development in this way. So when there are so many cameos, I just get lost. I'm like, what is going on? Why is this character important? So I feel like they need to just have a little less cameos. I also feel like the amount of cameos they had really took away from Wolverine's background, because we didn't really know what happened with this Wolverine. I feel like there could have been just a couple more flashbacks than just like a little monologue from this Wolverine. What I gathered from this was he was the opposite of the Logan universe, right? And I've also never watched Wolverine movies. I'm sorry, I couldn't figure out which one to watch and where to watch all of them, so I didn't. Probably on Disney, but oh well. Let's just say I couldn't be bothered. But I knew Wolverine's backstory, and I knew that going in, I've seen some scenes from Logan, so I know how he died in that movie. But with this Wolverine that we have interacting with Deadpool for most of the movie, there was a couple of Wolverines which I did like, actually. That one was not too many cameos. I feel like they kind of tied in all the Wolverines that way. It was a cool montage as well. I liked that Deadpool died a bunch of times. Sorry. I enjoy watching Deadpool kind of die, just because it's kind of funny. I just would have appreciated a little bit more of imagery when it came to Wolverine's backstory and understanding, so we had, as an audience, a little bit more of an emotional connection to what he was fighting for, or why he was so mad as a character and so depressed. I just feel like the knowledge of the Logan movie wasn't enough, because that wasn't the Wolverine that we knew. I think the only emotional connection that was there for his backstory was, I don't know her name, but Mini Wolverine, the little girl, right from, I think it was the original Logan movie. I don't know, but she has a name. Once again, not really into X-Men. I'm gonna have to watch all the X-Men movies now and rewatch Deadpool 3. Ugh. But there was a scene in the movie where Wolverine was talking to the mini version of Wolverine, and she essentially said, you weren't the right person until you were, or you weren't a good person. I don't remember the line. If you've watched the movie, you remember the line, but she said that Wolverine was the person that they were looking for here. I just had to act on that. I liked that part. I liked that scene. Even as someone who hasn't watched X-Men, I understood what was going on. It meant that there was a little bit more of an emotional connection, just that they could have added just a little tiny bit more. But now for the stuff that I did like, because the humor of Deadpool really makes this film good. Deadpool means there's less censorship as well, so we get a lot more jokes that Disney normally wouldn't have in their films, and they even make fun of it. I love the fourth wall breaks that Deadpool just generally has. So everything that makes Deadpool Deadpool is what I loved about it. The movie overall, I'm really glad that they connected Loki, the multiverse, and the X-Men. And this movie to me really was like cementing the fact that the X-Men were going to be coming into the MCU, and then whatever, I think it's called Secret Wars, the next Infinity Saga, whatever those movies are going to be, means that the X-Men are going to be in it. Wolverine and Deadpool are probably going to be in it, making those cameos to save the multiverse. And we know, what I loved was that they said that Deadpool was supposed to have like a bigger purpose in the multiverse. I don't know, I once again don't really remember what exactly they said. I have to rewatch films to really gather exact quotes. I'll do that once I'll watch all the X-Men movies, because I know you guys are probably getting mad at me for not watching X-Men. And then I'm gonna watch the Deadpool movies again, so it'll actually make sense. But I'm warning you guys now, I probably won't like X-Men, because like I said before, I don't like ensemble casts and it gets too confusing and too much for me to follow. Although I have watched X-Men Apocalypse, so I have watched one of them, so I didn't go into this movie completely blind. I don't think I've mentioned this on my channel before. I keep getting distracted. I watched WandaVision without watching the Infinity Saga. I hadn't watched most of the Marvel movies, and WandaVision is unfortunately what got me into the MCU. Because WandaVision was so good, but at the same time, if you go into WandaVision not knowing about what happened in the Infinity Saga, obviously I was completely confused. I enjoyed it while being confused, but I had to do a lot of research while I was watching it. And now here we are with a love-hate relationship with Marvel. I don't love Marvel, but I am unfortunately a fan, and I hate that about myself. So connecting up all of the MCU, X-Men, and the one thing that I don't know that I completely understood was how Deadpool ended up in the 616 universe, which is like the sacred timeline. They mention it in the movie. From what I know from Deadpool 2, he had like the time traveling thing that he was able to use, and I didn't realize he could jump around timelines like that. So maybe that's how he was able to do that. That was like one of the things that I found most confusing, but you know, I kind of suspended my disbelief. I was like, Happy's in it, another cameo, that was great. But at the same time, I was like, how did he do that? How is he jumping around different universes? So if anyone wants to explain or clarify that it's the way he was time traveling at the end of Deadpool 2, it would be most appreciated if you could give me a little bit of clarification. You can definitely tell that this movie, that they poured all of their budget into it, and that they wanted to make sure that they had all the cameos, they had all the plot lines, all the best script writers, directors, whatever, you know, they wanted the best for this film, because they definitely could feel that this was going to be what pushed them into being better as a franchise, I guess. They definitely make jokes that the whole multiverse thing wasn't working, which I found quite funny. There were some films that I did like. Up until Deadpool, there have been films that I've liked. But, you know, Secret Invasion, for one, wasn't a huge fan. That was boring. It had a lot of potential and great marketing, but was awful. But I liked Loki season 1 and season 2. There was faults. There's always faults in the MCU because it's the MCU. Once again, I love-hate relationship with them. But, you know, they've had hits and misses. Like every Deadpool movie, the humor definitely carried the entire film, and that's probably what made it such a hit as a movie. And definitely the banter between Wolverine and Deadpool, just with the emotional connection to Wolverine, I think there could have just been a little bit more with that and would have explained his character within this movie specifically, not his character like outside of the MCU Marvel, like in his own films. It would have explained his existence within this movie, like why is Wolverine in this movie, not just that, hey, he's here. There could have been like maybe just an extra fourth wall break other than the skeleton of Wolverine that died in Logan. Overall, it was a pretty good film. I enjoyed it. I will be watching it again with hopefully a little bit more context from the X-Men. I'm very excited to see what they do with the Deadpool character now that he's within the multiverse as well. I want to know if he could maybe make cameos in the future, if they're going to hold off on his character until they get to like Secret Wars. I don't think he's going to be in films until Secret Wars, but I would like to see, you know, more of Deadpool in the future. Definitely I would like to see more characters added to the Deadpool universe and all his friends and his family. You know what, one other thing that I didn't like, I didn't understand why the love interest, once again don't remember her name, why the love interest they broke up. They have like a rocky relationship, and I feel like that's subplot Z. You know, like why did we have that plot in the midst of all of everything that was happening? That's probably one of the reasons that the cameos didn't work as well and why I personally didn't like them was because there was so much happening all at once. Like, we could have stuck with like 3 plots at most. Instead we had 26 all throughout the alphabet, you know. Connecting the MCU and the multiverse and X-Men and Deadpool was like, they would try to fit that movie into multiple. I feel like Deadpool maybe could have come right before Secret Wars instead, so they would be able to have like a, you know, like how Ant-Man kind of led into, I think, Endgame at the beginning, and they were blipped at the end credits scene. Deadpool definitely should have been a little bit more like that Ant-Man scene and really led into Secret Wars and what was going on there. And I know a lot of films are doing that, but I feel like Deadpool should have been last. One other thing that I found absolutely brilliant about this film was the soundtrack. I love the soundtrack as well, especially during the fight scenes between Deadpool and Wolverine. That was hilarious. I loved it so much, and I would sit down just to watch those fight scenes again because they were brilliant. I really hope they do some sort of soundtrack like the way that they connected Guardians of the Galaxy in Infinity War, I believe, with their own soundtrack. I hope Deadpool, when he gets introduced in Secret Wars, he has his own soundtrack to introduce him. So humor and soundtrack really carried the movie and made it, like, just tied it neatly together. However, I still have a love-hate relationship with the MCU. It wasn't a perfect film by any means, but it was good, especially for the MCU. Anyways, guys, that is my opinion on Deadpool. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and what my opinions were. I'd love to know, and I think this is the first time I'm talking about the MCU on my channel. I know that the Marvel fandom can be insane, so just be respectful in my comments, and you know, let me know your comments down below. If you disagree with what I think, let me know, but respectfully. You know, we love having differing opinions on here, but you just have to be respectful about it. I'm going to say respectful again. You have to be respectful. Don't be a jerk. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. It really helps me out. Also, comment down below anything you're hoping to see from Marvel in the future. What characters would you like to see? What cameos would you like to see? You know, like Chris Evans as a Fantastic Four member. I don't know his name. He's a fireball. I'm sorry. I don't understand the X-Men. It's not even X-Men, it's freaking Fantastic Four. I don't understand. If they're not in the MCU, don't entirely understand them. Once again, I hope you enjoyed this video, but I've been CJ. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!